Hey ho, dear ones, Allison Scammell here, and with my old podcast combined with Soul Guide Radio, I've recorded over 300 podcast episodes over the past 5 years. I've been at this a long time, and I think this is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful episode I've ever shared. And what made it so powerful is the woman who I'm going to be speaking with, and it was a concept I've had for some time because let me tell you guys something from my heart. I am a very powerful healer. I'm not trying to brag. It's just the gift that I'm here to bring forth in this lifetime. And I can heal people energetically. I heal them deep. I heal them sophisticated. I heal them in really extraordinarily powerful ways. I'm just speaking truth. I just do. And you have a unique genius, and maybe you're also a healer. We're all healers at the end of the day, but maybe you focus on healing, and the way you heal, or the way you write, or the way you coach, or the way you show up, you have a genius as well that's just as powerful. And I'm just claiming my genius to you, which is energy healing and understanding energy. And I have been blessed with amazing soul clients. Maybe you have been one of them or are one of them. And you and I have probably had some spoon bending experiences together. And I can really tell you in about the last, especially, let's say 4 to 5 months, something has happened in the healing sessions that have taken them absolutely next level. We are tapping into a frequency on planet. Consciousness is expanding to ways that we are connecting to source at higher levels, the energy that actually enables the energy healing to take place. And it's causing this advanced healing to occur in ways that I've never experienced before. So about 4 or 5 months ago, because of this, I had the idea, I need to share with people what's happening in these sessions, especially if you've never been to an energy healer before, or you've not experienced advanced healing in this way before. Or maybe you yourself are an advanced healer and you want to get another perspective about what's going on. I just felt so called to do a behind the scenes, behind the healing. And so I am going to be offering a series from time to time called Behind the Sessions, which will be indeed a behind the scenes look of what has happened in a healing session, a coaching session, an intuitive reading, to really help you understand these healing modalities, what's possible for you, and what might be going on in your own experience. So my first soul client as part of the behind the scenes sessions is Sherris Shank. And indeed, she is a gifted hypnotherapist, and she was my guest in last week's Soul Guide Radio episode. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, please do so, and we'll link in the show notes. But what Sherris and I did in a regular healing session with her it really went beyond. And it was so powerful. I said to her, we have to have a follow-on conversation, a behind the sessions. And I just want you to walk us through, Sherris, what happened. And together in this conversation I'm about to share with you, we walk you through the absolute ineffable is the word coming to me, because that means it's so profound. It goes beyond words. What we experienced, it was so profound, it went beyond words, but we do our level best to put it into words so that you can receive the wisdom that is here for you. And before I get into today's episode, I would love to read a listener review. And this comes from Erica, who's commenting on the podcast episode. I saw that said Karma. And if you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, we'll link in the show notes. And she says, funny timing. I was struggling with cravings and got out the healthy kettle corn just as you told the story, and it was perfect timing to give me practice. Thank you. Well, thank you, Erica. I really, really appreciate the review. And if you, dear listener, would like me to read your amazing words on the air, head on over to wherever it is you listen, or you can find a link in the show notes to leave a review. I will read your words on the air. And as a gratitude gift, if you screenshot that review and email it to me, I will send you a gift of gratitude. All right, let's get into this powerful story of healing. In today's episode, I take you behind the scenes of an epically powerful healing session. I walk you through the 3 types of wounds that affect us all, and these are energy blocks. And Sherris, our guest, shares her amazing story of healing and transformation. We'll end on an invitation that will have you confronting the old stories and wounds that have plagued you your whole life so you can heal those stories for good. So please stay with us until the end. Hello, Soul Guide Circle. That is the name of this global and growing community of soul-guided leaders and entrepreneurs. In the Soul Guide Circle, we are using our spiritual gifts to grow prosperous, heart-led businesses that are on the leading edge of consciousness. Find a link to join our closed Facebook group at allisonscamel.com or in the show notes. Today, I'm talking to Sherris Shank, and she is a psycho-spiritual hypnotherapist based in Birmingham, Michigan. She's also the author of the Peace of Mind Blueprint. Sherris specializes in emotional healing and spiritual growth, working with local clients in person and international clients via Zoom. Her greatest joy is witnessing clients heal their wounds, develop new empowering beliefs, and embrace a life they adore. I really mean it when I say this is one of the most powerful episodes I've ever recorded, and I'm so excited to share it with you. Please do let me know in a listener review what you received from it. I would absolutely love to know. Please enjoy. I'm so happy to have you on Soul Guide Radio.
Well, Allison, I couldn't be more delighted to be here.
Oh my gosh. So you are such an extraordinary person. I will be interviewing you or chatting with you twice on the show. And I think what will happen is, because Sherris is a gifted hypnotherapist, and I think we're going to release these in the order of that hypnotherapy episode coming out first, and then this episode will come out second. So if you want to learn more about Sherris's hypnotherapy offers and insights, you can head over to the show notes and find a link to where I interview her on that. And we talk specifically and we explore the world, which I am a huge believer in, of hypnosis. And I've never had anyone on the show in 250 episodes to talk about hypnosis. So I'm very excited. Today, though, however, we're doing something I haven't done before, but I've been wanting to do, like dying to do. And I have to say, like, Sherris, the last few sessions with you, I'm like, I gotta talk about this. So what I mean is, I've been wanting to do a behind the scenes chat with my clients about some of the healing sessions that have been going on in my private sessions with clients. And I hope, Sherris, it's okay that I mention you're a private client. I'm getting a nod yes from her.
Yes.
Otherwise, I don't think she would have agreed to do this episode. But just now that we're very clear on that, I have to say, like, the session, all of the healing sessions that we've done together, Sherris has been like mind blown for me. And really, healing is such a co-creative process. It's me holding the space, it's you as the person receiving, and it's a lot of source coming in that actually does the healing. So it's like a trifecta of energies coming together. And when you get the right energies coming together at the right time, it can really be like there are no words to describe it. I'm going to pause there and let you respond to that, Sherris.
Well, that is That couldn't be more true. I finding you, Allison, was an answer to a prayer. And what strikes me even more is I've had that prayer my whole life, but I wasn't ready until now. And there you are. So I feel like I was led here and I couldn't be more grateful.
You've had that prayer your whole life that someone would arrive to really help you do the deep healing.
Yes, I'd reached a wall. I'm no stranger to this path, but I'd run into a wall. And
Yes.
there you are.
Oh my gosh. I'm so happy we found each other. So Sherris and I had a session just yesterday, and I think it left us both like in tears, in awe, in wonder. I would love to walk our listeners through what happened to the best of our abilities because it's really hard to put into words. But let's start, Sherris, with this limiting story, the story that you held with you your whole life that led to a whole hell of a lot of grief. So, can you
Right.
walk us through what that story was telling you that was leading to these always this like heavy amount of grief? And well, wait, let me just actually tee it up even better. We started the call yesterday with you saying, Allison, so many things in my life are going so well right now. And I wake up every morning sad.
Yes. So sad that my routine was to get up very early and sit in my favorite chair and drink coffee and work really hard to be able to go into the day. It would take me 2 hours every morning just to surmount that sadness that I could not shake.
And you are a fierce light worker and you've done the work. And I think it's an indication of how advanced you are in your spirituality because you knew you needed those 2 hours. While most people would have just sort of powered through the morning, but you actually gave yourself permission to take that time to get your vibe up to a higher place. Am I getting that right?
You are, I mean, it
Yeah.
was work. It was
Yeah.
work every day. And every day I would wonder, why do I just want to cry? And it was so opposite what my actual life experience is.
So we started to unpack this a little bit, this sadness that you've carried with you your whole life. And before this time, we also unpacked that you had this strong desire ever since you were a little girl to heal your family and heal your parents.
Yes. Yes. It was almost an obsession. And I can remember being a very small child and knowing they're unhappy. They're unhappy. I have to make them happy. And I never could.
Yeah.
You know, but the work we did yesterday, I think, is granting that wish.
Oh, I definitely believe that too. So let's walk people through what that means. So we started to unpack like where is the sadness coming from, and we found some limiting stories. And I got the intuitive information from your divine guidance team that there was a big block inside of you that was coming from three places, and we needed to heal them one at a time to really release this albatross that you've been carrying for good. And so the first was ancestral.
Yes.
This has come from your line. And, I asked you about your grandparents, great parents. I'd received the intuitive hit that a great tragedy had happened, though many generations ago. So, probably nothing that would have gotten passed down to you.
Right.
But we basically uncovered that this tragedy that kept getting passed down your lineage was full of shame, sadness, grief, lots and lots and lots of grief,
Unending grief.
unending grief. And some of your thoughts were, I just wish it would go away.
Yes.
And there's something wrong with me.
Right. Right.
And it's a
I've,
curse.
It's a curse. It felt like a curse that no matter what I did, I couldn't shake. And I tried everything I knew. Everything. If there was something out there, I tried it.
You also shared about your sister and how she carried around this grief even more intensely than you did.
So my older sister, who died in 2021, was also incredibly grief-stricken her whole life and always felt like there was something wrong with her. And she and I were more than birth sisters, we were soul sisters. We were really connected, and I could feel her pain always. It was close to the surface, but I could never reach it. I could never touch it.
So she very much appeared, her energy, I felt her
Yes,
presence, but I also felt like she was stuck somewhere. She
yes.
had crossed over. And a lot of times, well, all the time actually, when a soul crosses over with carrying something like lots and lots of grief, what will happen is that they will go to a time life from their lives that they had lived, and they will kind of park themselves there. They are no longer in physical form. So, this is their consciousness that goes to a timeline of their life, and they just stay there. Now, they're in a place where there's no clock time. So, it's not like they stay there for 5 or 10 years, it's beyond time. So, their consciousness is there, and it really is a holding pattern until they're ready to transition. And I could feel that she was in the holding pattern. But I didn't want
Eating.
to talk about that. I didn't really mention that to you yesterday, Sherris, because I didn't want to distract us from the healing, which I knew was ready to happen in big ways.
Right. I think she was hiding.
Yes, she was absolutely hiding. I want to get to her transition in a second. But before we do, I want to get to first, we cleared your ancestral wound. Ancestral wounds are funny because they involve more people. Because when I was doing your healing from your ancestral lineage and it was on your mom's side, we're healing all of the souls that came before you. And we're healing not all of them, but it goes back many generations. And we're also healing those who come after you. And this is true whether you've birthed your own kids or not. You're still going to always have a family lineage of people who come after you, and you're healing in both directions. It's kind of like you can imagine all this grief that just kept getting passed down generation to generation in your family line. The buck stopped with you, Sherris, and you stopped passing the grief.
And I can't tell you what a gift that is to be able to heal my family. I, it's such a great gift. It's almost difficult to verbalize it. I've wanted it my whole life to heal my family. And having lost so many in this life, I felt like I'd lost my chance. So grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And one of the things we realized was that you did, like, this childhood wish of yours to heal your family. You did, and you did it at just the right time, because when you were a kid, they weren't ready. They weren't ready. And so now you reach the point in healing, just like our dreams, just like everything, it's in alignment to the divine timing. We can't heal ourselves or help others to heal before the time is ready, the time is right. And yesterday really just felt like this divine time. It just opened up for the healing to flow. And interestingly, we have a very powerful new moon tomorrow, the first new moon of the year, and it's all about relationships and healing relationships, revisiting contracts of relationships. So I feel like the timing of it was just so beautifully divine.
Certainly was for me, and I trust that. Absolutely. I had asked all my guides to be with me, and they were.
And the story gets better because that's only the first healing. Then we go into the second healing. And the first one, at least from my perspective as the healer, you had the biggest release. And those with ancestral healing, you always want to go in and cut the cord. And there's an actual cord that connects you to the ancestral wound. And that can be tricky to cut. And that's, again, a time where sometimes we just can't operate on ourselves because we're too close to it. That would be a time to visit a healer, to have someone else just hold the space to help cut that cord so it's no longer tethered to you. Then we went into a past lifetime wound I had sensed from a very big, tragic experience from a past lifetime that I very much could sense was related to this grief. And
Yeah.
actually, once we went into that, you're the one that then kicked in and got the vision from the past lifetime. And what did you receive?
Well, it's actually a vision I'd had many times. This vision has been following me around, and I never knew what to do with it. But the vision was I was standing in front of a tent and I was looking around, and everyone I knew and loved was dead because there had been a slaughter. I don't know the circumstances of it. I don't know why I survived, but I was standing there looking at it and realizing they all died and I didn't. And I felt so much guilt about that and so much pain about that. And I kept hearing in my mind, last one standing, last one standing. And it crept into this life. I had fears of the people in this life dying. So you kept asking me for this story, but it didn't actually come back to me until we were in the middle of the healing.
So fascinating. And what I received is exactly what Sherris said. She had a lifetime. It was in Europe. You know, Europe had many, 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 many wars before World War One and World War Two. And it was at certain points of its history, it was in a constant war. And so we've all had past lifetimes where we've been in and out of these or other wars. And indeed, I got the message that Sherris's village had been attacked. It was a surprise attack. No one saw them coming. And I could get the details of it now, Sherris. Yesterday, they weren't really necessary. If you're interested, are you interested?
Yeah,
Why it was just you that survived?
yeah.
So the message that I'm getting is you were a great intuitive.
Mm.
And it was actually a village that didn't burn intuitives at the stake at that point in their history. So you were actually really looked up to. You were a healer, you were female, you were a healer, you were an intuitive. People came to you for healing, for counsel, for guidance. And you woke up one morning and said, I got to go into the woods. You had a spot you liked to go to and just sit in nature, like a sit
Mm.
spot, the way the Native Americans had. And you got the calling to go to your sit spot and you knew something was off in the energy, but you didn't know what.
Oh my
You
gosh.
yeah. So this is one of the reasons why you blamed yourself. Like, why didn't you get the message from the divine that the village was going to be attacked? But you didn't get the message from the divine because I don't think the divine's, and I'm getting a note of this, the divine never sent you the message because this was just meant to happen. So you never did anything wrong. Or I like to say you did everything right. So you went to your sit spot and there you were away from it all. And then when you came back, that's
It's
what you
interesting
found.
on so many fronts because the woods are still my safe place. And that explains the guilt,
Yes,
the massive guilt.
that was some serious tough love coming from the divine. And the divine will give us that tough love because this was, something that you needed to heal on a soul level. And, everybody involved needed that on a soul level. And so, you know, it's in that those human experiences where the soul evolves,
And sometimes it takes a bunch of lifetimes.
and it takes a bunch of lifetimes. So then we went through, and so you had, I survived and they didn't. And so it left you with this foreboding feeling in this lifetime that something will happen. Is
Right.
that right?
Yes. Yes. It like constantly living on the edge of a premonition
Yes.
and waiting. I kept asking myself, what are you waiting for? And I never knew what I was waiting for. But that's part of what would happen in my mornings. I was waiting because I was like standing on the cliff of this premonition, but I could never get it. And so
Wow.
constant fear and a constant lack of safety, just feeling like I am not safe in this world and my loved ones are not safe in this world. And I'm supposed to do something about it.
And you did.
Finally, yes.
Finally. And you certainly did. So we did a big healing on this lifetime, releasing all this guilt and shame and anger and fatigue. Lots
Fatigue.
of fatigue.
It was such a weight to carry. It was sitting on my energy like a giant block. I mean, like a cement sidewalk block. It was, I can't move it. So every morning I had to find a way to get around it.
That's amazing. Okay, so we had this second huge release from this past lifetime trauma. And then we had to go to the third and final, which is also so important. And that is deconditioning you, the deconditioning process. Because what happened was, Sherris, you came into this lifetime as a small, itty bitty little baby, very innocent, and also a very old soul with lots and lots and lots of experience and loads and loads and loads of grief inside of you, just carrying loads of grief. So as you grew up, you started to look for stories without realizing it that sort of supported this grief or was in resonance with this grief. And this caused you to plug in to some of the real conditioning out there in the collective fear that we're not safe, our loved ones are going to die, bad people are coming to get us, these types of uh, fears that rattle through the collective.
And powerlessness.
And powerless. And there's nothing I can do about it.
There's nothing I can do. And that caused more grief.
And that caused more grief. So you had a trifecta of grief coming at you.
Yes. Yeah.
So no wonder you needed 2 hours every morning.
And then there's that happened in this lifetime that added to it.
And then we haven't even got it into this lifetime where you've
Right.
had a lot of loved ones cross over at
Right.
younger ages.
Right.
Yeah. So when we went into the deconditioning, deconditioning is a little bit different than healing energy blocks. Deconditioning is a lot of unplugging. You're
Mhm.
unplugging from the collective fear. And I like to use this process where I get out this giant eraser and it's just start to erase the stories. You want to erase these default conditioning that we just fall into so that we can start writing the new stories that are the true stories of who you are, who you're meant to be, what you're meant to do. So when we got some messages from your higher self about Sherris's new stories, we got when I and so wait, and just to back up for a sec, this grief was very, very much cutting you off from joy, right?
Yes.
Yes. So when you're in grief, it's hard to access your joy. Or
It's,
when you're in joy, you feel guilty about it
yes.
because I should be sad, right?
Oh, I felt like I didn't deserve it
Yeah.
because I had left all those people and I hadn't done what I was supposed to do.
Yeah. So we landed on the message of truth from your higher self that was when I feel joy, I lift others up.
which was totally the opposite of what I had been feeling, which was when I feel joy, I'm abandoning them.
Yes.
I'm leaving them there to suffer. I couldn't do it. And so to realize that when I feel joy, when I heal and when I feel joy, that I'm actually healing them and radiating joy to them. I can't even express that shift that happened. It, it was so freeing. It was like everything fell away and got clear. I know I'm doing a terrible job explaining it, but it's very hard to explain exactly what happened.
You're doing a beautiful job.
Thank you.
I can say yesterday, something happened when it was like, it was a moment in time where the weights that were on your shoulder just lifted off
Yeah.
and your whole appearance shifted. Your skin color shifted. You had a glow. You were glowing. Your posture changed. You were sitting up taller. It was miraculous. I could see it. I could feel it. And I could see it in your energy field, but I could physically see it.
It's so interesting because I got up this morning and I thought, well, we'll see. And I sat in my chair and I realized I'm not sad. I'm not sad. And so I kind of waited, you know, suspicious. So I kind of waited and then I thought, I'm shining. I'm shining. If you want to talk about joy, that thought was really joyful. It was like this mud that I'd been encased in just got washed away. Like I was just covered with mud and I could never wash it off.
And I'd love to revisit your initial comment from yesterday just to see what's your natural reaction to this. I have so many good things happening in my life. And what comes up after that?
It's okay to be happy about it.
Yeah, it's
It's
okay.
okay to be happy about it. I
Yes.
did what I came to do.
Yes. Yes.
It's
And
okay.
it's okay. It's okay to be happy. It's okay to celebrate.
I haven't quite got to celebration.
Okay, okay. Buffalo steps, as I like to say. And I want to also just mention a little bit about your sister. She played a role in all of this. I knew she was in this holding pattern. And you had mentioned to me that you guys were soul sisters and you're super intuitive. And I can only imagine, well, I've seen her energy. She's super intuitive, although the grief could have cut her off from her intuitive gifts because
It
that's
did.
what will happen. But you said she crossed over in 2021 and you just haven't really been able to reach her and connect with her.
No, I couldn't feel her. And I looked and I looked and I searched and I searched. And I knew she would answer me if she could. I knew she would. I mean, we were so close. I knew the moment she was going to die, and I was 5,000 miles away. So I knew she would answer if she could. And that was also causing me grief.
And have you sensed her at all?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have. And she even popped in for a second right at the end because you said that you were going to help her transition and that you couldn't do it right now, but you were going to do it. And all of a sudden I heard her say, "When is she coming?" And that's the first I heard since 2021. And
Wow.
then, but this morning, it was like she was sitting in my living room.
That's amazing. Okay, so then I'll tell you what I did. So after our session, I went in and I did it. I helped her transition. And it's listeners, it's not something I talk about a lot, but I'm going to be talking about it thanks to Sherris, because this is how healing works, you know? I held this space for Sherris while she did all the work to heal herself. But then what she gave back to me was these great gifts of like, oh my gosh, I really want to talk more about what happens when people cross over. And I want to share more about what actually happens in these healing sessions. So, what Sherris gave back to me is such an amazing gift of clarity and inspiration and excitement about different ways I can serve you more. And so, one thing I don't talk about a lot about is that I have a lot of experience with helping crossed over souls transition. And it's just something I do. And I mostly just do it randomly to family members and friends and clients sometimes when it comes up. But it is something I want to talk a whole heck of a lot more about. And so your sister's name is Candy. And so I went to her and she was in this transit. I call it the holding pattern. And I think it's what the Catholics mean by purgatory. But it is this holding pattern. And it usually you go there when you're in a lot of grief or shame or pain. And she was in one of her bedrooms from her lifetime. I think it was her last bedroom. And it was the lights were out. It was very dark. And she was extremely sad, just like riddled with grief. And she had handcuffs on herself that she had placed on herself. And I went to her and she said to me, "Did Sherris send you?" And I said, "Yes, she did." And I said, "I'm here to help you." So the first thing she did was hug me. And there was just so much grief. It was, even I, with all of my experience, it was just mountains of grief because she also had a lot of past lifetime grief as well from her own past lifetimes, plus the ancestral, plus the conditioning, plus current lifetime. We didn't even get to current lifetime, right? Plus current lifetime. So I helped her release a ton of grief. Then I easily, at that point, everything went very easily. She easily connected in with her guides. And then she came back to me. And then usually once a crossed over soul connects to their divine guidance team, I usually step out. My role is done. That's what happens when you help souls transition. You connect them. Sometimes you can do different things, helping them to heal or uh, work past a trauma they had in their lifetime that they just experienced. But usually it's just a connection of the divine guidance team, and then the divine guidance team takes over. So I thought my work was done, if you will. And then she came back to me, and this was so beautiful. And she put out her arms to me and said, "Please get these handcuffs off me." So I removed the handcuffs. They sort of broke off. And then this room, all of a sudden, she just turned into this bright, beautiful colors of her chakra energy, just turned to life in this amazing color. And she just was enveloped in love by her divine guidance team. And they went off to do what it is they do. And then what was left was this very sad room. So what I did was I cleared away the room and I sent it to be completely transmuted. So there's no way she can ever return to the sad room. It's gone. And I said to her, the last thing I said to her is, "Go connect with your sister. She has been waiting for you."
I can't describe the gift that is. I just, to know that she's free and healed, it makes my healing, it heals me to know that she is such a beautiful soul. And it just seemed like I was the only one that saw it. So thank you. I don't know what else to say.
Oh. Well, I can tell you this. I saw it. I saw what a beautiful soul she is. This old soul with so much love, but she just had this veil. It was like a veil of grief over her. And you know what? She needed it on a soul level. Like this was
Mm.
part of her evolution, part of her own soul contracts. So she needed this lifetime because she had so much grief from past lifetime and ancestry. Like she needed to go. This is the message I'm getting. She needed to go through a life of grief. And this is also for you, although you're clearing it before she was able to. But you and she needed to go through so much, and then in her case all of her life, with this grief, because it was the only way. It was like you needed to get it built up and built up and built up so that you could get the release. There was this divine timing, and it had to kind of get worse before it could get better. And I relate to this because I had the same thing with my past lifetime experience, which mine was all about healing. And it was also a situation where I had to sort of store up my trauma so that it could just sort of be released in a big go at one time. And sometimes with certain blocks that are just so big, it's almost like you have to roll the boulder all the way up the hill till you get to the other side, and then the boulder can roll back down and you're no longer pushing it up the hill.
I get that. And I think that's a very healing message for many people that there is a purpose. Maybe you can't see it, but there is a purpose. And, it's just that the desire to heal is what gets you where you need to go.
Yes. And I just have to share. So if you guys are watching on YouTube, I'm going to show to the camera. I highlighted this thing that Sherris said yesterday, and that was, there's something wrong with me. You can see that. My chicken scratch. There's something wrong with me. And the reason I highlighted it, Sherris, was because of what you just said. So many of us go through life with this baggage, these core wounds that were literally designed on a soul level to be carrying around because we haven't got to the top of the hill to push the boulder back down. So we're pushing the boulder, right? We're pushing, pushing, pushing. And while we're pushing, we're saying, what's wrong with me? Why am I pushing this boulder? I've done so much healing. Why am I not better? Why am I not healed? What is wrong with me? And the answer is nothing is wrong with you. This is how the healing is meant to go. And it's a lifetime process. And if you keep the desire to heal, just like you said, Sherris, and if you stay on the healing path, you'll get to the top of the hill.
And it's
And
worth
you
it.
and you won't have to push anymore.
It's so worth it. I mean, I'm just a day away and I can already feel the difference. And that explains something Candy said to me this morning because I was like, "Where are you?" And I heard her laugh and she said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" Because she's healed. Now I understand that. I didn't understand that comment this morning, but now I understand it. You don't recognize me, do you? And she laughed. She laughed.
She
My
laughed.
God, she laughed. Keep the faith. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. And listeners, if you resonate at all to anything Sherris and I are saying, there is nothing wrong with you, dear one.
And I can't tell you how many millions of times I asked myself, what is wrong with you? No, I'm never going to ask that again.
Oh, I think that's out of everything you've said, Sherris, I think that's the greatest thing you just said. And you said a lot of great things. That makes me so happy to hear.
Well,
There's,
I couldn't have done it without you, Allison. I could not have done it without you. And I just, endless gratitude. Just endless gratitude.
I received that. Thank you so much. And I have endless gratitude back to you for being so courageous and not I'm like I was like yesterday, I said, Sherris, are you sure you want to keep going? And you said yes. It was so inspiring. And then you got also gave me the gift of Candy, connecting me to her. And I'm going to be doing a lot of channeling of crossed over souls. to really get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what happens as we transition, so I can start sharing that with my listeners. And she is going to help me with my research.
Oh, oh, okay. She's dancing.
She's really excited about it, and so am I.
Oh,
So, yeah.
well, it was worth it. That's all I can say. It was all worth it. And now I can just love everyone with complete abandon and without grief or guilt. There is no gift bigger than that.
That's the greatest way to end this episode and wrap this episode up. As you know, Sherris, because I know you're a listener to Soul Guide Radio, I always ask my guests to leave our listeners with an invitation. And I'm going to ask you in one sec how people can find you, your website, your other handles you might want to share. But before that, I invite you to leave our listeners with an invitation, inviting them anywhere you wish them to go.
Wish them to go deep into the sanctuary of peace that lives in all of us and find their own truth and live their own truth and be the light in the world that they are, because you're needed. You are so needed right now.
Beautiful invitation. I am going to take that one on myself. And Sherris, I know folks are going to want to learn more about you and get into your healing world, which is unbelievable. And again, there will be a link in the show notes to check out Sherris's episode on him. And also, how can our listeners find you?
Well, my website is Birmingham Clinical hypnotherapy.com. And if they're interested in my book, that's thepeaceofmindblueprint.com.
Beautiful. And we will leave those links in the show notes. Sherris, I can't even say how grateful I am for you for being a guest on Soul Guide Radio today. Thank you.
Such an honor. Just an honor.
And I want to thank you, dear listener, for tuning in and holding this space for us. I felt you time jump to the time that Sherris and I were speaking to hold the space for us and the time that we were healing. And I just want you to know how very grateful I am for you each and every week. And as always, until next time, may your soul guide the way.